I think that I completely agree that our chemical language is much too immature and superficial to be able to explain anything coming close to life or mind. And we will never ever probably have the tools to be able to do that. But my comment or question was more a matter of conceptual question, a context question. Could there be something in life or explaining mind which is not related to the physical world, to atoms and molecules interacting with each other? Is there something else than molecules, like the spiritual world or something like that, that explains our mind or our free will? Or could everything be due to molecules interacting? And that's a conceptual question. And I personally believe that we are nothing else than molecules interacting.
No, but may I object, because yes. I think it's possible, as I said before, that with our mind we can control what's happening at the certain levels. So we have some kind of super ego controlling these events. But certainly the biochemistry is very important.
But my point is that super ego is also molecules interacting. That is, and if it's not, what is it?
Yeah, but I mean, you can affect it by, for example, learning, or but other people can affect that.
But that is also molecules interacting. Us talking here is molecules.
What's in the head and the leg? I mean, what starts it?
Yeah. Okay, Conrad and then Martin.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking about language, and we often forget that we have not only a brain so different, it's not too different from animals, but we have a myriad of muscles in our speech, and we have acoustic possibilities far beyond the animals, which gave us finally also written language and the ability to learn from other brains. And other brains have taught us things. One thing which I thought is almost forgotten, and where I attack you, is Aristotle's four laws of causality, where you follow the first, I follow the third, and many follow others. The first, and all these causalities satisfy the mind. The first is the causa materialis, the second is the causa formalis, the third the causa efficiens, and the fourth the causa finalis. And Aristotle put as example the statue on the Acropolis. One will be satisfied with the cause. What is the cause of the statue? The bronze. The bronze. And he's right. The second will say, no, it's not the bronze. It's the four legs, the tail, the rider. And the third will say, you are all wrong. The cause of the statue is the artist who built it. And then comes the last, and many biologists will be on that side and say, you are all wrong. The cause is that Alexander the Great won a battle in Persia. And that's why they put the whole here. So we should take responsibility for the choices we make due to custom, which gives us pleasure, but has nothing to do with the object and the question we are asking about. And I think we do this by habit all the time. And the question, and we should also, in the question of mind, in all these dark questions, really say, what are we fascinated, and why are we so trapped by the question of mind? Why do we think I is such a special thing? We think it with the same context as anything else, and the animists can do it with all kinds of glass reflexes, the same things, and then they become out of fashion or in fashion. So we are the problem, and we should take responsibility for the choices we make, and we should first clarify from which arbitrary viewpoint and ignored alternatives we select out of these great questions. And then very often the solution is, because the mind could, in its complexity, be simply one of the many things we like to think about, and we run into the paradox because I is not something I can think. There is being and becoming, it must change. And we have to learn, since we have a language and written things, from the people. Also the reductionists have to learn. Descartes' discours de la méthode is not just a reduction to matter, it's a reduction to those things qu'il le faut plus aisé de résoudre les choses. They make it more easy to answer. If you reduce to things which make it more complex, forget about it. It has nothing to do with Descartes.
Wonderful. I don't feel attacked.
So I think we should have the last question,
yes,
and then we close it for him.
So I wanted to probe your thoughts about disciplines, both of you, because I mean, in this whole series it has been, as Per might put it, some friction between things that stand next to each other, or as you, Elias, might put it, actually an interaction and things happening together. And I'm wondering, you know, if one of the problems with mind, studying life, studying this higher complexity, is that we work in disciplines, in fact. And I wanted to look at you in terms of the Beaux-Arts and you in terms of science, because you actually did this, and I would attack you for saying, oh, you have imaging or you have genetics or whatever. Of course, my sense is that only when you merge all these techniques and step out of your disciplines and work together in arts, perhaps, I don't know, in science, perhaps, I don't know, can you start touching these more complex, you know, abstract phenomena. I don't know, but it's for you to speculate on. It's,
Well, my feeling is that we have to learn from others' experiences and other fields. What I'm witnessing now is that science has a kind of superiority complex. They feel they can explain everything. And it shows how imbalanced this dialogue is, in fact, not with Hugo, but what is happening now in the room. It's only the scientists talking to scientists, and with the illusion that by talking between themselves, and mainly male figures from what I see, they will be able to explain to us, poor people from other areas of knowledge, what they should believe. And I think this is not very rewarding for me, at least. So this is my feeling.
but what do you think about the arts? What do you think about the arts? Are you entering into a world of, you know, disciplines disappearing in the arts and moving together, or what is happening when you try to, you know, probe your boundaries, so to speak?
No, I'm very interested in what I can discover in science from my own limited perspective, of course, because I will never have the knowledge that Hugo has. But I feel when we're talking together that there is a real exchange, which is very interesting because it brings me into areas I've never been before, and this is what is of interest. And that's how it should be. This is what this platform is really about, or should be about. Opening windows on things that we did not think before. Now, if we're talking about something else, is how art could use science, or this I hate really, because you have many artists who claim to be scientists, and so or claim to be architects or whatever, you know, and they're using only the formal aspect or half-cooked notions that they don't really understand. And this I don't think is really interesting, because it's not opening any windows for anybody. It's just a show off. You know, I've been brushed by science, and I don't think it's very intellectually rewarding for the viewer. And this is where I'm talking of generosity, and this is a word I use in my essay, because we're talking about sharing and expanding others' views, because we're living very limited lives. So when I get a chance to meet somebody like Hugo, I'm very happy and I have a very good moment. And I wish that it could go on during the discussion. And when I realize the discussion is only revolving on aspects, on a discussion between scientists, I feel I could be anywhere else. You know, where should, you know, what do I get from that? Because when the level of the speech is too it's obviously something that they should conduct between themselves, because I'm out of it. I don't understand half of it, for one thing, and you know, this is probably the limits.
But I meant, if you remove yourself from this room entirely, this room now does not exist, and this idiotic discussion between scientists does not exist. Do you see a probing of the mind and life and things like this among artists of very different disciplines? Do you see a movement towards coherence, or do people, because you're in a way advocating the specialist view?
The difference between the arts is, and I'm not an artist, I'm a curator, so Per would be much more better position to answer that. But what I witness in the art world is that you need constantly to expand your views, because if you want to create, or to, in my position as a curator, to give a position on what is going on in the world, you cannot be limited to what you're doing. So we need to read about this and that and see other things. So we have to. We don't have any other choice, you see. So we need to know a little, be stimulated by anything like science, but also sports or whatever, you name it. You know, it's impossible to conceive of art closed on art, whereas you can very well imagine science being closed onto science, from my point of view.
But I think there's some improvement. Actually, for example, neuroscientists and psychologists, they never talk with each other. Psychologists look upon the brain as a black box, but now there's a lot of communication, so we're starting to understand the physiological background of different behaviors. So I think somewhere there's some improvement, and also philosophers, when Husserl examined in the month of 1923, and she had discovered how the brain is formed. I mean, the question of brain and mind, I'm sure they did discuss that. Philosophers live in their own world. But now then, Paul Ricoeur, who is a French philosopher, published a book together with Jean showed that there's this gap. Is in some way, there's at least an ambition to bridge it.
And I certainly think that joining across disciplines is what is really needed. This is, Ingmar says, the language of chemistry is superficial. But joining with the arts may improve it. And this is why we are here overall.
I'm sorry, I attacked you.
No, but this is important, because it also shows that we are not used to it. We are used to staying in our disciplines and feeling comfortable there.
Yeah, but I think it was also when we started, I always felt like I was dealing with a big brother. I really have to agree with that. It's like science is really the big brother. And it is, but it's also, I guess it's also having the courage, it's a little bit like Véronique says, it's also having the courage of kind of saying, well, you know, big brothers also sometimes wrong.
But I think the problem with the big brothers is that it's very seldom that very few scientists who really can explain and try to what they're doing. I mean, they prefer to talk to their own group, and even between different types of sciences. And for example, one guy was really good, this Ulf Danielsson's physicist, when he explains the string theory about math, I mean, it's very good, but most scientists, they usually use their own language, makes it impossible, and they're also very boring, I think. I think artists are not so boring.
I must say, I was at a dinner with a scientist talking about performance art, since I do group performance, and he said it was supposed to be called emergence, since I gave them vague instructions and they created their own performance. And then he was really happy that I somehow agreed, like, okay, we can call it emergence. And then he was running around the dinner and telling every artist or art collector that my thing is called emergence, and he got some response. So there it's somehow connected with science and art, but for him to understand my art. Still, I think I do performance, not emergence, but it was kind of a nice meeting. But I also thought about it was something called Google Wave, totally flopped, where you chatted in real time with other people, and then it was the written language in chat, but it was in real time, and it totally flopped because you couldn't, the mind didn't follow the structure, or as we do now, as you sit and think for 1 hour what I want to say, and then try to formulate it so you scientists understand me as an artist or whatever. But that was kind of interesting regarding the mind, that it went too fast, or that you got insecure and you couldn't be there now, or living in the now, because you are too afraid to live in the now. So now I even got a book about the monk who's writing about how to live in the now, and it's all becoming pretty funny in a way, that we have to read how to live now, because we are a bit afraid, I think, to see what's happening.
Should we wrap it up? Or?
Yes. It's hard because there are many people waiting. Maybe, let's say like this. Let's have the dialogue going for a long, long, long time. But let's wrap this session up. May I just, before we thank Hugo and Véronique, a few words of practical information. Please put back the book on the chairs. If you like the book, we do have additional books for selling here. And actually, maybe I can say that now, this was the last dialogue we had. The whole installation will be taken down, and the chairs are actually available for a non-profit organization called Wiesinger to support the continued dialogue between art and science. So if you're interested in a chair or two, you can talk to any of us about it. But maybe we should wrap it up with that and have a big, big hand for Hugo and Véronique.